The White Cow of Lewis, written by David White and read by Rebecca Brown. The day was a bright one, and the rain hadn't fallen at all that week, which for a winter month was very unusual. You wouldn't even say it was particularly windy, not for Lewis anyway, and a group was amassing at the centre of the village. By the edge of the village lived Aine, who, having worked tirelessly for the past few months to try and reap what reward she could from the barren and inhospitable land in the off-season, was reaching the end of her tether. She was not the only one though, as the harvest that year had failed, leaving the islanders to forage, fish and farm what little they could during this time. She reminded herself of her fortune, as many a fisherman had not returned to the shore with the waves wreaking havoc as they were, not to mention those who ventured where the blue men lurk beneath the sea. Rare was a man who survived their ice grip, but that is another tale. Aine, growing short of food, like much of the island, had been forced to sacrifice her cow, for which she depended on for milk, as did much of her family. And while that meant they did eat for a while at least, it left them without the cheeses and milky drinks they did long for. Not only that, but much of the island had done the same, and now not only the food but the nutritious Highland milk had deserted them. Aine saw villagers walking by, heading for the centre of the village, and called to one of the passers-by. "What goes on in the centre? Many of you seem to be wandering when we should be hunting for what little remains."
Aine, the elders have called a meeting. What'll that do, gods only know.
Aine accompanied the passer-by, an elderly man who lived about a mile outside the village, with whom she had become acquainted over the years. Before long, Aine arrived at the centre of the village, and before her stood most of the island. She must truly have missed the summons, as families easily half a day's walk away were arriving long before her. Before she had time to question herself as to how she had missed the call to assemble, a representative of the elders stood.
We have been in discussions for several days now. As you all well know, the island is in famine. Our stores are depleted, and while what little reserves we had have gotten us until now, we still have a month before the growing season, and we are all without grains, meat, vegetables or dairy, and have no way of remedying our hunger. The council has thus decided that all willing, we shall amass our remaining supplies in the village from all around and share it equally each day amongst families, so that we may all face out the last of the winter. Already the storms seem to pass, and if the current weather holds out another week, we may yet succeed. What say you all?
The response from the crowd was a resounding aye, for all the islanders were connected in some way. None would see another starve. That is perhaps except for the widow in the north, for she reclused from all and when approached would not offer a word nor a smile in return for your kindness. Aine scouted around the gathering to see whether she had arrived, but as expected, she was not to be seen. The week drew on, the food stores were compiled, but the elders were not much pleased, for the supplies were far less than had been expected. Even rationed out, they would not last more than 2 weeks at most, and a storm appeared to be once again brewing on the horizon. The elders chose this point to venture to the standing stones, and offered the others on the island the chance that, should they wish, they may join them in the ritual to the gods, in hope of summoning some bounty to alleviate the suffering of their people. Aine, and much of the rest of those not too young or too old to make the trek, joined the elders and together prayed to the gods. Special tribute was granted. As the sun descended, the storm could be seen growing closer and darker. As the sun kissed the sleeping land farewell, the islanders descended the hill and headed for the village. When they arrived back, the village was in darkness, but something caught Aine's eye, a glint of something that appeared to be moving down by the sea, just before the shore. She started towards it, when a hand grabbed her.
What are you doing?
Said one of the elders.
A storm is coming, and will arrive on our shores any moment. You must go to your home and bolt yourself in until it lifts.
Aine was about to agree, but now not only did she definitely see movement, but something drew her towards it, so she nimbly slipped out of the grasp of the elder and ran down to the shore. Suddenly, a wind caught her and threw her onto her back, and as she tried to regain her bearings, she was entranced by the stars, and as she looked out to sea, that was all she saw. The storm was gone. As she glanced around her, she saw, standing but 5 feet away, a cow, the moonlight dancing off its pure white hair. And then, it spoke. I have been sent to assist you in your plight. Ain, wondering if she had hit her head, was now doubting herself. You just talked. Indeed, I did, my child, and I would speak to all your people, so as to promise them my aid. Ain was still taken aback by this talking creature, and somewhat wary that the tales of selkies and such like may also apply to cows. Ain cautiously led the cow away from the sea and towards the village, for she was met by an astonished congregation of islanders who, but for a few minutes before, had been preparing for a winter storm, and now were faced with a clear, moonlit night. Then the cow spoke again. I have come to help you in this time of famine. While I may not offer much, I can offer each of you a pail of milk for each day that you require it, and that milk, being a gift from the gods, shall act as the sustenance that you shall require. The villagers, now forgetting their earlier wonderment at the vanishing storm, were now transfixed on the cow that had just appeared from the sea and appeared to be speaking to them. The youngest of the elder council spoke first.
If you are indeed sent by the gods rather than some evil creature who doth seek to purge us, how shall we know?
Join me at first light in the middle of the standing stones. There I shall fulfill my promise, and should you distrust my action, perhaps the young one who greeted me on the shore shall drink the milk and prove that what I say is true. And so it was at first light Ain stood with her pail and drank from it the bounty of fresh milk. It quenched her thirst, and she felt her hunger ebb too. In fact, she felt better than she ever had. Why, this stuff is better than she promised. I feel stronger than ever, cried Ain. With that, the islanders began to queue, and one by one exclaimed in delight as their stomachs were once again full. As the week went on, more nourishment was received day by day. However, on the final day of that week, things took a turn. At the end of the queue stood the widow of the north, and as she bent down to milk the cow, she placed underneath it a sieve and started to milk. The sieve could never be full, so the cow was unable to fulfill its promise. It turned to Ain, who was about to leave, and said, This woman is a trickster of the foulest form, a witch who has depleted me, for when the pail cannot be filled, I cannot provide another. However, rest assured that with what I have given you, and the winter season being over in but 2 weeks, you should not starve. With that, the cow ran off towards the ocean, and it was reported by the fishermen that she leapt into the sea, vanishing before their very eyes. As Ain went to sleep that evening, she saw the white cow transform into a beautiful woman who spoke to her. Thank you for your help, my child. I am sorry I had to go. Who are you? Ain probed lightly. Some call me Buvinda, but I go by many names. Some also know me as the partner to Dagda, mother of Angus, but I have been many things to many people. To your island, I was the white cow, and for all the islanders will know, that is all I have ever been. The days soon grew longer. The islanders survived, and sure enough, in time the crops were sown, animals left their burrows, lambs were born, fish were found, kitchen tables were filled, and the island once again thrived. The white cow became no more than a whisper of a legend, but the island remembers her bounty, deep in the bones of the soil.